where it is that we went. Specifically, we went to this tiny village in Magori, which means big mosquito. Which is funny. Yes. Yes, there was a lot of mosquitoes. But before we got there, we had to raise money, and we had a lot of friends supporting us, and we went to multiple places in Coleman, and one of my good friends, Jill, face painted for us, and we sold snacks, and we did a lot of things, and most of the money we raised was just by people seeing it and giving money rather than just buying stuff, which was very great to see. There were so many people who just came up and said that they would love to support and just gave us money. And this is my friend Jill, who did face painted for many, many hours on a bunch of children to raise money for us, but she couldn't go with us, but she was very helpful. And we went, this is the place we went, and we had a bunch of boards set up, and a lot of people from our church helped us. And then we also did a lemonade stand, and we sold crocheted items, and that's another way we raised money. And then this is us at the airport before we left. This is the group that went, and these are the two adults from our church, and these twins, Cynthia and Kinsey, are actually originally from that village, but they've grown up in the US. Their mother died from malaria when they were babies, and Kinsey had malaria. And she was there as a missionary, Miss Robin, and their grandmother walked for miles to bring the twins because they knew there was a foreigner there, and asked to take them in because their grandmother is very elderly and couldn't care for them. So she brought them back to the US, and they've grown up in the US, but they went back, and everyone in that village knows who they are because it's two twins who made it to America. And so that's how we ended up going there, because they have friends there, they have relationships in a mission organization there. So we got to go, and they invited me. So we landed in Nairobi and then drove 8 hours to the little place, Magori. And that was pictures of the Rift Valley while we were driving there. And this is one of their friends, Joseph. He was our driver. He is also a safari driver, which he did take us on a safari at the end, which was very cool. But it was very nice to have him because he drove like very many hours with us, and he was very helpful and answered many of our questions. And this is Pastor Joshua, who's the pastor of the church there. And when we were in the village, he took us around, and he was our translator most of the time. And he was very kind and very helpful and has very good ministry going on there, which this is his church. And there were so many children there. There was like way more children than there were adults. And it was very fun because we got to go there on Sunday and meet them. This was us on Sunday in the house that we stayed in. And then this was us in church. And there was a bunch of children that were just sitting on our laps. And they would like clap and dance and sing to the music. It was very fun, very different from church in America, but it reminded me a lot of churches in Ethiopia. And then outside of the church afterwards, we would have a feeding program where children from the schools would all come. And we did this like 4 times. We almost went every single day. And then after we would feed them, we would like wash dishes, and then we would play with them. We would pass out like papers to color, write down. They were all coloring. We like blew up balloons once, gave stickers, and played games. And we also sang like Jesus Loves Me and other little songs with them. And they knew the words. They were very enthusiastic about it because they learned it at school. One of the things we got to go to was a women's prison. We didn't get to take any pictures inside, but a lot of these women were in there for like theft and stuff, trying to get food or like money for their families. And a lot of them make stuff while they're in prison, and so they have like crocheting and sewing stuff, but their sewing machines are like the old kind who still have to pump. And there's a lot of girls in there who have injuries, so they like can't do that. So we were able to give them 2 sewing machines that they were able to take, and we bought them so they fit with the power. And they had a little church service while we were there, and they were all like dancing and singing and clapping to it, so that was really cool. And they were very grateful for the sewing machines, and we bought some of the little crafts they sent us. And I gave one to my grandmother. And it was very pretty, very well made, but they were very thankful for it. And they even had a carpentry shop like in there where they were learning trades, because when they need to go back into society, they need a job, because a lot of them have children that were with them, some of them if they had babies or outside. And then another really cool thing we got to do is we got to build a hut. We did some help, but there was definitely the actual men who were building it did most of it. But they started out by building a frame out of sticks, and that took a couple hours. And then they made this giant mud pit, and then we carried water from a well like all the way over to it, and they put water, and that's where they hid it, and they made a bunch of mud, and that's us carrying water. And then we mudded the house. You would take one brick, you would stick it between, and you mud it. And we were there like from the crack, like early in the morning until very late, and then we had to leave because we had another thing to get to. But that's what it looked like practically finished. And yeah, and they built the roof before we started mudding it so we could have shade, because it was really hot. And this is the widow that it was built for, because she had lost her house. And then this is a school in Kenya. And a lot of these girls were around our age, and some of them were very good at speaking English. And their school we were able to give multiple computers to. And we also, we gave these to a lot of people throughout Kenya, but they had these tiny like MP3 players that have the Bible in both English and Swahili that don't require internet or anything, it's just downloaded on them. And so we gave a bunch of them to these. Everywhere we went, we gave them to people. And this was us talking to the girls. They were asking us about America and stuff, and I was telling them about how I used to live in Ethiopia, and they asked us next time to bring them American boyfriends, which was funny, because they're like, why didn't you guys bring any boys for us? And then I spoke in front of all of the kids, and there was a lot of them, two different, because I did the olders and the youngers, and Pastor Joshua was my translator, and I talked about the first and the second commandment. And I only had one day to prepare, so I was really nervous, but it went pretty well. And that was us handing them the little Bible things to he's the like principal of the school, and he also invited us in for dinner. He was very lovely, and so was his wife. That was the inside of their house. I took a picture because it reminded me so much of how Ethiopians decorate their house. And then this was us. This is his daughter Gift. And they're trying to see if she can come to America maybe for school. And she was very nice. Her English is very good. And she went to us to many of the things. But the thing she went to us is we went to a ward in a hospital for women who have just given birth or are about to give birth. And we brought food, and we brought snacks, and we bought hats and socks and baby clothes. And we went around and passed them out to the women in there. And they had babies. And while we were there, we found out that there was a woman who had just had a miscarriage, and she was stuck there though because she couldn't pay the bills. So she was in a room with a bunch of moms who had little babies, and she didn't have one. And she was also like needed a surgery. And we were able, with the money we raised from like all the stuff we did, to pay for it for her, which was such a blessing. And yes, it was such an amazing thing, because we didn't go there, we didn't know what was going to happen, but God just gave us that opportunity. And they have a radio station. These are the people who gave us the little MP3 players with the Bible. And Pastor Joshua also does sermons over this radio, but it's like a gospel station. We didn't actually go on it or anything, but they took us to see the radio station, the booth, and take pictures in it, which was really neat. And then this is when we went to visit the twins' family, because they actually have family there, and their grandmother is still alive. She basically has almost completely lost her vision, but meeting her was so nice, and this was a lot of their family. The grandmother's not in the picture though, because she couldn't leave the house, but it was very sweet seeing her with the twins. And the twins, one of them is very good at crocheting, and she made her this huge blanket and gave it to her. And it was very sweet to see them, and they had really amazing food that they gave us. and this is one of their cousins, we think, but we lost in translation, so we're not really sure. But he was very sweet. And then after that, on the way back, Joseph, our driver, took us on a safari, which was very neat because I've never been on a safari before, and we saw some pretty cool animals. It was very fun, and I was very tired the entire trip because jet lag was really bad, and I don't think I slept at all the entire week. But then we made it to the airport and we made it back, and Mom picked me up, and it was a very fun experience, and it made me homesick for Ethiopia, but it was also very different from Ethiopia. But I was very glad I got to go. So thank you for watching.